This programme was made with support from the National Lottery Heritage Fund. Welcome to the Heritage Channel, coming to you this month from the Alexandra Dock here in the heart of Grimsby. Home to the Fishing Heritage Centre and the Ross Tiger, this quiet riverside area will soon be a hive of cultural activity when Festival of the Sea returns on Saturday the 15th of July. Talented local artists will feature in vibrant street theatre, music and dance at this multi-art form festival. There'll be lots of activities to get involved in and some great street food to enjoy.
Casbah Theatre is proud to present Captain Fish Cake and his fabulous fish fingers. It's a puppet show that's designed to entertain family audiences.
We've got 3 amazing activities happening. The exhibition at the Fishing Heritage Centre, 2 workshop sessions outside on the waterfront, and we have Sue Austin who will be showing her film at our Big Pictures studio on Bethlehem Street.
Events at the Turntable Gallery in Grimsby Dock and Our Big Picture in Bethlehem Street complete the lineup for what promises to be a fun-packed day of entertainment for all the family.
Come and see us at the Festival of the Sea on Saturday the 15th of July.
Have you ever wondered how the streets where you live got their names? We joined Ward Councillor Steve Beasant for a fascinating tour of the streets of the East Marsh.
Where I'm standing is Buller Street, and just across the road there basically is Robert Street. 2 streets which are fairly interlinked they are in the East Marsh, both named after generals from the Boer War, General Buller and General Roberts. In their time they was considered heroes, but also one of the Grant Forrells, R.S. Grant Forrell, he had a connection with those 2 people. It's the Grant Forrell family which named the streets after the generals. Basically what we're standing on now is the Grant Forrell estate. It is a very dominant character in the history of East Marsh. At the moment I'm standing on Heneage Road. Edward Heneage was fairly influential in this area. He owned quite a bit of land and he was a Liberal MP for our area. Behind me is Eleanor Street. Eleanor was Edward Heneage's wife. On Eleanor Street there's a number of derelict buildings, one of them being the old art college, which was Winteringham School many years back. And when it was a school, I learnt to swim in there. I did. Many residents around the East Marsh have fond memories of the old Winteringham School, and it's very important that we don't lose our heritage. I'm now standing on Kent Street, which was purchased in the mid to late 1800s. It was bought by the Hull Fishing Smack Society. God help us, it could have been known as Hull Street, this street as I'm stood on at the moment, because we seem to be at tribal war with Hull, but fortunately all the fishermen who worked for them had come down from Kent, they had. So that was the reason why it became known as Kent Street. We've now walked down to Tomline Street. George Tomline, an interesting character, he served in the same constituency as Benjamin Disraeli. He was a Conservative at the time, he was, and then he moved to Grimsby and he became the Grimsby MP, he did. And he owned quite a pocket of land, as we can see around here we can do. Just over here is Orwell Street. Orwell Street, a lot of people have very fond memories of. It was named after an observatory which George Tomline built down in Suffolk, but Orwell Street is famous for the Orwell Street baths. Not far from Tomline Street is Ryby Square, and the interesting thing about Ryby Square, it was a centre of people coming backwards and forwards from the docks. It would be a hive of activity. It's named after George Tomline's estate where he grew up. Rantforald area of the East Marsh is perhaps the most important part of the East Marsh, and it's the biggest part of the East Marsh. It actually goes from where we stood now right up to Old Cleethorpes Church and beyond, so it's a fairly large piece of land. We're on Forrald Street at the moment. Over there is Grant Street it is, and Alexander William Grant Forrald was the first of the Grant Forralds. He was actually born a Forrald, he was, and he took the name Grant after his mother, it did, so he became Grant Forrald. And it's very important that we remember them, because this area wasn't industrial, it was all houses, it was people's homes it was. Yeah, we've now come down to Frank Walsham Court, one of these streets which is a little bit of an anomaly. It's not associated with any great person or anything, but in the eyes of many people, Frank Walsham was a great person, he was. One of the members of East Marsh Nostalgia, he told me that he couldn't read or write, poor Ronnie, but it was Frank who actually got him reading and writing. But he was a bit of a character, he was. He was commonly known as Mad Wally because he was fairly liberal with the cane or the slipper, but on occasions, apparently, so I've heard, he used to hang children upside down out the school window at Harrow Street School because he was deputy head teacher there. And to be honest, I think it's a lovely story, it is. And I will affectionately know him as Mad Wally.
The Young Archaeologist Club will be hosting a taster session at St Peter's Church Hall in Lincoln. Drop in between 10 and 12 on the 5th of August to experience activities for the whole family to enjoy. The Edward Watkins Society are hosting 2 open days in July to celebrate the achievements of the Victorian entrepreneur who transformed Grimsby and Cleethorpes. Full details are on the Society's website. And Linkage Community Trust are providing a unique opportunity for the public to see the grandeur of Willesby Hall in a Heritage Open Day. So Aaron, what's coming up next?
Some useful health advice from NHS England.
The purpose of first aid is what it says itself, is to have something there as an immediate remedy when you really need it. And that's often quite a safe thing to do. And then if you're not sure or if it's not working after a little while, to then get in touch with either the pharmacist to see are you on the right medication or the right over-the-counter treatment. Is there something else you should be trying? Or of course, if things are getting worse, to get some medical advice and have a chat with your GP or NHS 111.
Cleethorpes Light Railway are celebrating their 30th anniversary this year. Gemma, Alex and Elise went along to explore their history and ride the rails.
I'm here in Cleethorpes to find out more about the history of this fascinating miniature railway and discover why it's so well loved and popular by the visitors and locals. Did you know that Cleethorpes Coast Light Railway is visited by around 75,000 people every year? And this year it celebrates its 75th anniversary. Since Since 1948, the Cleethorpes Coast Light Railway has been one of the go-to attractions on the Lincolnshire coast.
So the Cleethorpes Coast Light Railway was first established in 1948. It was started by a chap called William Botterill. It was opened on the 16th of July and it ran as a 10.25 inch gauge railway, purely as a pleasure railway, taking people up and down the Boating Lake, just for a bit of fun really. And it was running that way for about 5 years until a chap called Mr. Clethro came over, took it on, and he ran it before the council took over in the 60s.
In the 1960s, battery locomotives were used, and in 1972, the line was extended in both directions.
The railway went through a real sort of a good period before people started going on holiday in the 70s, and the railway did see a little bit of a decline. Happily, in the early 1990s, a chap called Chris Shaw came along. The railway was privatised and he invested a huge amount into the railway, putting in new buildings, putting in new rolling stock, and we've really continued his legacy. So myself and my business partner bought the railway back in 2014 and we've been running it and investing in it constantly since then.
My name is Ryan and I'm an engine driver here, and the engines we have here, we actually have got 4 steam engines and 5 diesels.
All with their own individual histories. That's the thing with railway locos, they've all got their own past.
We got Bonnie Dundee, who was built in 1900. That's a steam engine, and that was actually originally built to work in Dundee Gasworks. And for diesels, we got this one, DA1, built in 1986, and it first started its life down in Australia at the old Bushmill Railway.
And it makes it very interesting, you know, for visitors to come down and learn the histories of each of those locomotives.
Today, Cleethorpes Coast Light Railway has 2 stations, Kingsway, which is next to the leisure centre, and here at Lakeside, which is home to the smallest pub in the world. You can sit back and enjoy a refreshing drink at the award-winning pub, the Signal Box Inn. And at 8 by 8 square feet, it makes it the smallest pub in the world. Cheers.
This year we're celebrating our 75th anniversary on the 15th and 16th of July. We've got a big anniversary weekend, so we've got visiting locos coming down. We've got visiting traction engines and vehicles, vintage vehicles, and we're just going to have a big celebration, but also we're really pleased to be opening our own 75th exhibition, which documents the story of the light railway here in Cleethorpes. And I think it's got a huge appeal from youngsters up to grandparents and generation after generation. We worked out the other day, we've probably carried over 5 million people in the time the railway's been here, which is an incredible amount of memories and nostalgia in that. But also we're forever creating new memories for people who come down. And I don't think a seaside resort is the same without some sort of railway. We're really, really happy to continue that heritage on.
In the run-up to the Festival of the Sea celebrations, I joined artist Adrian Riley in St James Square for a tour of his public artwork that celebrates our social and cultural heritage.
Well, this was a commission by North East Lincolnshire Council. To develop the square, it was all going to be repaved and they wanted to include artwork in that. This is carved into stone, so physically it should last a long time. We had people of all ages, young people involved in it, taking photographs around the town, people sharing stories. Because all this paving was going down there, and it was something the council already had in mind. And I generally work with text and with words. And it seemed a great way of involving people that their actual words could go in this path.
I've learned lots in terms of fishing heritage, and the ship's manifest is absolutely fascinating. I'm going to have a look at that because I've got ship family history in fishing, obviously, as probably nearly everybody in Grimsby has. I've looked and walked it many times, and I've used information that have been given by other people, but the stories behind them and the creation of the place itself and the practicalities of that is really interesting to me.
kind of a democratic retelling of history, not just for stuff you get in history books or you get in the official sort of authorised version of Grimsby, but you know, genuine people's stories and memories. There's a few bits that make me smile. There's some bits where actual sentences are in there verbatim that people, you know, said to me. We worked with some teenagers locally and they went out and took photographs of all different lettering styles around the town. And so all the styles that you see here in the path came from their photographs. And a labyrinth is kind of different from a maze. A labyrinth only has one route in and one route out. And the idea is that you walk it as a kind of meditation. And it's kind of right there in the middle of the path. And it's kind of a nice halfway point as well.
It's very important to be able to have a space where people can come together and to share something that perhaps they've not experienced before as well. It's really important I believe, to stretch our minds and make us think in different directions, which is just great.
It's been deliberately designed to have some loose ends, and the idea that you might read something on here that's intriguing to you, and that will encourage them to look deeper into the history of Grimsby.
Well, that's all for this special edition of the Heritage Channel. We hope to see you tomorrow down here by the waterside for Festival of the Sea. In the meantime, it's goodbye from everyone at the Heritage Channel. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next month for more news, views and heritage stories. The programmes on the Heritage Channel are made with support from the National Lottery Heritage Fund.